First, and the other side says processing poultry. So we're on the processing poultry side. And if you're on the first workshop, you're going to hear somebody say corny jokes. So should say this, should be titled, What We Have Learned by Doing Wrong, Should We, You Will Do Them Right. And we'll say we've got some resources up here on poultry. If Mount Healthy Hatchery down by Cincinnati, Grassland Stock Farmers, a great publication that has poultry stuff in it. Another supplier, Premier. We started kind of raising from Joel Salatin, which has raising pasture poultry profits, how to net $25,000 in 6 months on 20 acres. He's got a lot in here on raising birds, plus how to process them. You've never seen an Acres magazine. That's really good every month for sustainable farming. And then Eric was just in here for the OFA conference, and it's great sustainable farming. They have tours every year of different farms, a lot of times poultry farms. So they're up here if you want to look at them when we get done. My name's Guy Ashmore, and my wife Sandy. We own and operate that guy's family farm. All my friends say they go by the farm all the time, and the only one they see working Sandy is Sandy. They wonder why it's not called that girl farm. But that's how we come up with it. As our children, Nellie, Conrad, and Maggie, they've all been a big part of our farm.
Does anybody know how to make that full screen? What button to hit? I don't want to hit something wrong, but
Take the border off.
yeah. Nobody in here knows? Okay, well, it goes like
I
that.
make it bigger, but it's not.
Okay, we can just leave it.
We're not real techy either. So all our children are involved in ag. Of course, I run right Maggie Farms in eastern Kentucky with her husband. They raise livestock and produce. Nellie raises cut flowers on our farm full time. Our son Conrad is moving into a partnership with us, and hopefully be full time on the farm next year. We've got. Oh, all right. Thank you. We're down in southwest Ohio, kind of between Dayton and Cincinnati, east of that. Clinton County, we have 48 acres, about a little over 30 of it's open ground. The rest is woods and creek. We make mainly primarily produce. We're certified organic. We got about 8 acres of produce, about an acre and a half of flowers. And we raise meat birds, and we do turkeys for Thanksgiving. So we're here to, I have some slides up, but it's raise the produce, cut flowers, and poultry. And this is the picture we showed earlier, our movable meat pen birds, and then this is our laying hen that we drug around. Jethro, our attack goat, protects our hens. Turkeys, chicks. So, is everybody in there raising birds? Pretty much. And has anybody done their own processing? All right. So, if I leave something out, let me know, because it's up to it. And really, when you go to processing birds, it's kind of the same if you're doing one in the backyard over a wash tub and a wood fire, or if you've got more equipment like we've got. We don't have elaborate equipment, but we've added over the years. We've been raising birds for about 20 years. And when we decided to start raising birds, we kind of do them for part of the farm to make profit. We decided we wanted to do the processing ourselves. I wanted all control of it and kind of keep all the money we could. It's hard enough to make it. So we started, and we'll kind of show you how we progressed through this. So I guess if you haven't raised birds, the question Nellie's got here is, can I do this? And the answer is yes. When we first started, I don't know if we were married yet. We've been married over 30 years. We raised some birds, and my grandma came down to help us process. And we had a wood fire, a wash tub with water. We cut the heads off with a hatchet, just like grandma did. Let them flop around the weeds to bleed out. And we did 25 birds. I think it took us, 12 hours. We said, we're not going to do this again. A couple of years later, we got back into it by hearing Joel Salatin and invested in a little bit of equipment and decided we could do this. The first thing, you've raised your bird as best you can, and it's time to process it, so you got to have some way to catch the bird. So this is a chicken crate that they sell, and this is like a pet carrier. So what you have to do is the night before you butcher, the big thing is to take the feet away from the chicken. You want to take it away about 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. That way it lets the chickens crawl clean out. All the feet will be gone. If not, when you go to butcher the next day, it's crawled. The chicken has a crawl here that they pre-digest their grain in before it goes down to the gizzard, and that'll be full of grain. And it makes a lot nastier way to process. So the night before you butcher, take the feet away, leave water, they'll be just fine. And then we usually catch our birds at night. They're less active, they're more docile. You can go down there and just lift the pin up and catch the birds, and we put about 10 in this one, and then we catch them and bring them to the farm. Another thing you're going to need, and this is the same as whatever you're doing, you're going to need a thermometer for your scald water. You're going to need something to put the chicken in when you get done. You're going to need a lot of water, a sharp knife. And we use detergent, and I'll show you what that's for also. So you can have when you get the birds, let's see if I got this kind of a little backwards. This is what's called killing cones. This is how we use them. You can see this is some ones we bought. These are some abandoned along the road cones. These work real well too. If you've got some that's they're thrown away from ODOT or that's had it, you just cut the top off and a hole in the bottom big enough for the chicken's head. So first thing you do is kill them. We'll go through this. Then you have to scald them to loosen up the feathers. Then you have to get the feathers off of them. This is a pick or a commercial type, but you can do it by hand. Then you got to have a tank to put them in. We usually put them in here before we eviscerate just to cool them down. You got to have a place to gut them, to eviscerate them. You got to have something to put all the guts in. You got to have a tank to chill them when you get done. And then you got to have a lot of water. We like water close to everywhere. So this is kind of our setup looking at it. It's changed over the years. This was a homemade hoop structure we made for tarp we worked under. We generally butcher once a month from May to October. Under the state of Ohio, you can legally process up to 1,000 birds per person on the farm and sell directly from the farm without having to have an ODA permit or a health department inspection if you sold the birds from the farm. And that's what we do. We butcher that afternoon, people come and pick them up. Since then, we've added a lean-to here, and this is a little more modern system. Another picture of it. Coolers to put the chickens in afterwards, and some way to cool the birds down. Ice, we freeze a lot of ice and deep freezes, and this is kind of how we started. There's kind of our system now. It's improved. Here's how we first started. We were just out in the open with an old roll scale. We were selling them. This is my dad. It's the first stainless steel table we owned.
And it was pretty crude and, but doable, especially if you're just doing it for yourself, so.
Yeah.
And then we progressed up, we'll keep
Yeah,
showing you.
when we're doing this system here, we do 50 and it'd take about all day, and it'd be about 7 of us. And we just learned how to do it and progress, so this is pretty basic. So to get started, you go the night before. Here we are right at dusk catching them. And just we put about 10 in the thing, however you want to do them. I don't really recommend putting them in feed sacks. You can transport them in a bag, but you can't really keep them in there all night. It won't be there in the morning worth doing. So you got to have some type of pen to put them in, and less stress at night.
Yeah, and that, if you can't tell you, it's like a carrier on the back of a tractor that they've got them all lined up. If you're going to do a lot, it makes it's easier. We've done a lot to take out a truck, but.
Right. Yeah, it's a carrier. I think there's a 4 across, and you can stack them 4 high. And, our movable pins, we just flip it up and we catch them and put them in here.
And that was kind of a little revelation, because they really don't go anywhere at night. And we were, you know, crawling in the pen sometimes, or had movable lids, but instead we just flipped the whole chicken tractor over, and all the chickens are pretty much still in there, so
Yeah.
they really aren't gonna go very far.
So then they go from the crates and to the killing cones. And any age can help, everyone likes to help.
Some of these are a little graphic.
Yeah, I
here,
should say that.
Opposed.
So when you catch the chicken, you know, you pull it out of the chicken crate, and I usually grab it and secure it, because they want to flop real bad. The more you secure it, the more the chicken's relaxed, feels good. And you stick it in the cone, head down, you usually hold on the feet, you slide it down in there, and you pull the head out. And we do what they call a kosher kill. We don't cut the heads off anymore. So what we do is just take a knife and cut the both veins, but we leave the head on. That way the spine is connected, and it keeps pumping and pumps the blood out, so you get a clean bleed. And if you ever get chicken from the grocery or something, there's dark spots around the bone, that's where it's been stunned and they haven't bled out. So we do the kosher kill,
And how long is that? You can see what the other slide is.
this is just showing kind of, you know, you gotta be careful when you get down with that cone. You know, you got the chickens in there, and you gotta hold up, you got the knife, you're gonna stick it through there, and you wanna make sure you don't stick the knife through the chicken's neck and into your hand. And I've done that, so you just wanna watch what you're doing, and we always put buckets underneath the cone to catch as much blood as we can. Turkeys, we use bigger cones and a different setup, but it's kind of the same way. He's leaving the spine intact and just cutting on both sides, Matthew, is there. So, this
The
is all
amount
the
of
killing
time,
process.
yeah.
Generally, once you cut their neck and let it bleed, we usually let them bleed about 1.5 to 2 minutes. You can let them bleed longer. If they set more than, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes and they start to get stiff, rigor mortis starts to set in. So generally what we do here, we've got 8 cones here that we can kill 8 or 9. And we kill 9 and we put 3 in the plucker or scalder, and it takes about 1.5 minutes, so it's just a kind of cycle. So if you're just getting started, you might just want to kill 1 or 2 to get started at a time, how you can do that. You want them to bleed out at least 1.5 to 2 minutes. If you haven't cut them quite right, or don't bleed them out quite right, when you go to get them later, you'll have more blood in, you'll know they're too bloody. But generally, if they hang a couple of minutes, and you did a nice job of slitting their throat, you won't have that problem. Not that it's really a problem, but you don't want that blood in the meat. So after you kill the bird,
We could say about the turkey, in case anybody wants to do a turkey, someone's holding the legs on the top of that too, because they are such a big, fierce animal, really. They're moving around a lot in that cone.
yeah, that looks like a big cone there, but the turkeys won't fit in that one. So these are actually a turkey cone. And the turkeys are weighing, 35 pounds on hoof, and the chickens are weighing about 9 pounds. So it's good to have 2 people in there because they do kick, and just to kind of still them till you get this. And we kind of want to make that, the bird is going to die, but you want it to be as relaxed as possible. Not just for the chicken, but the more relaxed the chicken is, the more less tense the meat will be. Because if they're all tensed up, their muscles contract. So you kind of just want to try to, make it as easy as you can. We're going to scald now, and here's what we used to do. This was a gas stove out of the camper with a propane tank, a wash tub. Here's the candy thermometer, and you could dunk these by hand, but Sandy's dad invented this, we call it the Dunkomatic 2000, and it was on a motor, and it had a cam he made, and it would send this up and down, because when you scald the chickens, you want the action that goes up and down in the water. That lets all the water come in to the body, so you get a good scald. And main thing on processing from here on is to get the right temperature on this water. Here's a candy thermometer, and I'll show you what we do now. But you want that water to be about 145 degrees. If it's too cold, the feathers won't come out hardly. So they're very difficult. You can't get the pin feathers. And if it's too hot, the skin will rip off the bird. So if you get this scald right, everything out there here goes pretty easy. So it's 145 on our thermometer at our house. If it's 147, it's pretty good. 143, 145 is pretty often. You get up to about 155, the skin's going to start tearing off. You get below about 140, you're going to have everybody complaining because the feathers don't come out.
And then there's like a yellow skin that stays on top of it that you don't want.
So this is kind of just a step up from, a wood fire. This is the dunker we use now, the scalder. Sandy's dad made it. We get the thermometer here. That's just a block thermometer like you have in the car. It goes down at the bottom. This was an old aluminum fuel tank off a semi and some paddles, because you want this action, you want this bird to go in, out, about like that, in, out. So the whole body gets in there. And we put that soap detergent in this water because that helps break that grease down and gets all the water and soap around that chicken. Yes?
How long do you leave it submerged before bringing it out?
Just about that long.
Dunk.
1 minute, I
Yeah,
think.
about like, this would be, take it down.
But for
Bring it
1
back
minute
out.
or more, right?
Well, the whole scald would take about a minute.
The whole process of getting out.
Oh, yes.
And so this is up
Do
and
you
down.
time it to see if it's a minute, or do you just check to see how easy the
We
feathers are
let-
coming out and then throw it in the plucker?
On this one here, we had an egg timer for a while, but that just, you knock it over, what's happening. But I tell you what you do is, if you think you're getting close to that scald, if you grab this skin and you've been dunking it, when it peels off, the bird is about done. When you start pulling out some feathers and they pull out easy, you know it's about a minute and a half. And that skin will really slip on your hand, and right off in the chicken's leg will be white. The chicken's leg up in here won't be white because that's not under the water, but down here where the knuckles are, you can slip it with your skin, and you'll know that bird's about right, or just start pulling some feathers out. If they're tugging, you haven't done it. Now, on this one, we do have a timer, and we set about a minute and a half, but sometimes, we still reach in there and slip that skin on the legs to make sure. This one submerges the chicken completely. It lays on here and turns, comes back out, turns, and that kind of does the same thing as that up and down action.
And 3 could go in there.
Yeah.
Is that what it is, 3?
Or 4, yeah. So it's the same way, it's the same as the other one, it's 145 degrees. The bird's going in and out of the water, and a timer, so you do a few, you kind of get used to it, or the egg timer doesn't work bad at first. The kids got tired of us stealing all the egg timers out of their games. We had to quit. You gotta have a heat source on your scalder. The last one was that grill. This one is just a turkey burner everybody's got hooked to a propane tank. And there's a door that goes on the front of this, so you don't even see it's on there. It's just a pretty simple setup. You got a drain in the bottom of it. The timer. And here's kind of what our situation looks like. There's Jermaine, little Jermaine. This family came out and helped us for a few times. The boys always wanted to do the killing end of it. And that was great. Usually that's the last thing anybody wants to help with. And the sister, mom, dad was in the other part of it. And so here's the birds in the cages. There's the killing cones. We always try to put everything close together so you don't have that many steps and the birds can go right to it. So they come out of here into the killing cones, into the scalder, and you kind of see the chickens are flipping right there. And they go from here into what we call a picker or a plucker. And this takes the place of plucking them by hand. And you can't pluck them by hand. You just want to be kind of quick before that bird gets cold. Here's, we have plucked them by hand, and then we stepped up and we bought this tabletop picker. And here's my brother, and this is when we were under the shade tree from the first pictures. And this thing rotates. A drum right there, these are called rubber fingers. They're about the size of my finger. And that thing spins pretty quick. And on this type of situation, after it comes out of hot water, you actually turn the bird on those rubber fingers and it takes the feathers off and shoots them down here or all in the back. But you gotta turn the bird and make sure it does it. This one's very hard to do with turkeys. It took about 2 people to lift it and turn it. And we did this for a number of years till our brother cried uncle and said no more.
And you could buy one of those tabletops for $1,000 or something maybe?
Probably 600 maybe. They do make small ones. If you just want to do them for yourself that are about this big, they even run off like a cordless drill. And I don't know, you might get those for $250. I'm not sure really how the price to it, but you can get like really small tabletop ones if you're only going to do about 25 or so. And you can do them by hand. If you do them by hand, and the feathers start getting hard to pull out, you put them back in the hot water, dip them a few more times, bring them out, and pull them out. That's how everybody did them for years and years.
How does the tabletop plucker compare to a drum plucker?
It's like night and day different. We've got a drum picker now, and this one, like I said, it was hard for him to kind of get that chicken plucked well without it getting cold. And then from this part, we go to what we call a preening table, and the person on that preening table picks all the feathers out that you didn't get with the picker. And it was almost a fight to get somebody to do the preening after this one because it was a lot of work getting the feathers out. And so now we found a 1950s model drum picker, and you can kind of see right over here where Felicia is. That's the birds that came out of there, and there's hardly any feathers at all on it. This is like a 1950s model. That's Jermaine Sr., and he's looking down in it because what happens is this bottom spins inside it. And there's rubber fingers, you see the black right there, all up the sides, and there's fingers on the bottom, and it spins and tumbles the chickens around in there. And these work better if you have like at least 3 or 4 chickens in them, because it's kind of like an atom, they want to bounce off each other. If you only got one in there, it kind of just lays in the bottom. You got to reach in there and kind of flip it over. If you got 2 or 3, they kind of bounce off each other. So it goes, and it only takes maybe a minute to clean 4 birds on this, that.
He's also spraying water in it, just a little bit.
Right here's a water ring. You could use a garden hose. So here's how the bottom turns. You can see daylight around there where the feathers come out. And he's watching it to see how they're tumbling, and he's got his hand on our water knob right there. We don't put a lot of water on them because it cools the bird down right then. So we just kind of do it to make it like a lubricant. And that's the same thing as this thing, or doing it by hand. So now the new ones, they got an injection door on them, and they shoot on the table. That's the picker in action. You can see the water shooting into it. There's at least 2, 3 birds in there bouncing around. You can see all the feathers are coming off.
You see the skin of that leg coming off. It's like white.
See how that's white now? So when I said you slip that skin, you really can tell it's. And if you over scalded it, this breast meat would kind of be coming all off of it. The water's too hot. And even in this picker, if you don't have the water hot enough, the feathers will stay on it and get that yellow skin. So really at that 145, 140 to 150, shoot in there is really, really critical. So after they come out of here, and it's about a minute, the other model is however long it takes you to get it done. They come out here and we put them on what we call a preening table. So you kind of see how the skin slipped on the leg there. And what they're doing is the tail feathers, that's the tail, here's the head. We leave the neck on it. We think no matter how you do this with this or this, that neck kind of hopes, we leave the head on it, kind of stretches that out, so it kind of stretches the bird out and kind of gets the feather come off it more. We like selling the neck. We think it makes great stock. So they get it, and they, tail feathers, sometimes they're just stubs, but we've got pliers to pull them out. We have everybody kind of go over them real well.
And actually, they have pulled the heads off. So when they're on that table, the head's still on it, but it just will actually pull off with a tug.
Right.
I'm not sure why that is.
Yeah.
Because it's not really been, the bone hasn't been cut.
Right. It's just kind of that cartilage right there on the neck, and it just pulls off. And you can cut it off if you want to. If you cut it, sometimes you get the sharp edge on it, pokes your bags and stuff, so really it's just easier as a pick up knife just to pull it off. Some people don't like to pull it off. It's good to have at least one person on the table that doesn't mind doing it.
Yeah, and you know, usually you don't have to have 3 people there,
No.
1 for each bird, but that's when you had a group that came. So most of the time, there's one person at that table doing that job.
Usually one person that's doing this also kind of helps do this, to pull them out, and we got all 2 together. We're doing, usually when we do about 200 to 250 at a time, so, you know, we're not very big, but usually we can start about 8 o'clock and we're done by noon with this system. Didn't used to be like that. So the person here is taking the feathers off, pull the head off, they're gonna cut the legs off. I think that's the next slide. Right here, they're cutting the vent, or the oil gland off too. I think I got a better picture of that. So here's cutting the legs off, and you wanna explain that better to me?
Well, I always say this is where people go wrong, is you have to cut that in the joint, because if you do not, then all the skin just sucks up the leg, so when you prepare it, it's just a mess. So I always,
edible.
yeah, right, but I always say to bend the foot down,
It's
and
on
you can
its back.
see, yeah, on its back, bend the foot down so you can see the joint better, and then you'll be able to see it. And if you make you never want to be cutting through the bone, so if you're forcing that, you don't have the right spot. So just keep cutting through the skin until you know it just cuts through, and the only thing you'll be cutting through is skin and like 3 ligaments, and they're pretty easy to get through. So if you're powering through it, you don't have the right spot.
Yeah, once you make that first cut, you about can tell that's all ligamentary if you cut through it.
Yeah.
See how it kind of broke after you made that slice, and you see the ligament in there. Like I said, we do have some customers that want the feet. We'll save them for them if they want them. Make a stock out of them. Dad said they always fried when he was a kid, but big family. Then, so we got the legs done. Then you turn the bird over on its belly or on the breast side, and you cut the oil glands, what we do. That's the tail with the feathers missing. And just about, you can kind of see what size that is. What that is, it's kind of like ducks have bigger oil glands. It's kind of when the chickens groom themselves. They put oil on, kind of makes them more weatherproof. Ducks got a lot of oil glands, and so they're kind of water resistant. Some people we know leave that on there and it cooks out, but we take it off. It's pretty simple. You cut down maybe a ½ inch. It'll hit cartilage here if you cut more. And then just grab hold of it and peel it off, or you can slice it off there. And it's yellow in there and you'll see it.
Do you ever just cut the whole tail off?
We generally don't. We know some people that do. We just take the oil gland off.
It makes like, it can make jagged edges, so when you put it in a bag, then, you know, that might puncture the bag, and so I just think it's easier to leave it on.
And we kind of, like, we leave the neck on, we leave that on, we kind of sell the whole chicken. That way customers, they get the whole bird if they want it. And not to say, but yeah, that's a little bit of weight. If you're selling 200 birds, and it's a little bit more money at the end of the day too, if everything left on it. But the jagged edges is a big point. So we've got the bird, the legs off, crawl, or the oil gland off. So the next thing is we're really ready to gut it or eviscerate it. So we always lay it on its back. And this, I think, is the hardest part for anybody, is to get the crawl out. And it's about, you cut a slot right above the breast. You don't want to get down here too far, then the breast meat all exposes when you cook it. So you can see the breast stop about there. So you're up about 2 inches. And you just make a small cut in there. And you can always make the hole bigger if you finger. So I usually just make it small, pull it apart. And then the crawl, if it was full of feed, would be about the size of an egg, full of grain and grass and everything, so you would really see it. When it's empty, it's always invisible and it's flat, and you got the 2 different tubes.
Right.
Can't do the name right now.
Trachea and esophagus.
Thank you. And you gotta pull them loose. You gotta pull the crawl loose, and it's really pretty attached. So sometimes grabbing a hold of it is what's difficult.
Right, and it's like a membrane, and it's, you
Yeah.
know, it's kind of invisible really until you get an eye for it.
And I always, everybody does it different, but I always, when I get that hole cut, I always put my fingers underneath it and pop that skin inside out, where I can kind of see in there, with my other hand grab it. But I've done a bunch. So here, that's kind of what I do, I pull it apart, and I don't know if you really see the windpipes in or not. That's kind of the crawl right there.
Yeah, it's hard to get a picture
And
of.
there's the, I call them windpipes,
Yeah,
and that's Stuart trying to get them out.
and there's two.
And there's two, and this takes everybody longer than anything, I think. And when you get onto it, it doesn't take you long, but believe you, and if you miss it, you'll find out when you go to pull things out the other end, because it won't be coming
Right,
with you.
so that's because you want to do this first, because it's going to pull right through, hopefully. So this is the very first thing you do.
Right. So we're saying Stuart found it and he got it out. So now we're gonna take the offal out of it. So we turn it around, it's still on its back, and we call it the vent, which is, you know, it's a rectum, I guess. And then, so here's the bottom of the tail. So just above the vent, about as close as you can get to it, be about a ½ inch, you make a slice perpendicular to the bird. And I always make mine kind of small and then reach in there and pull it bigger. If you try to make it big with the knife, sometimes you're going to get an intestine or something there with that knife. I think Sandy usually cuts hers, I don't know if you pull yours, but I always, and you make the hole big enough for your hand. So Sandy's chickens will have a smaller hole to get the guts out than mine do. So you make this slice across there, and then you kind of see it starting to open up.
That's when you need to be careful so that you're not cutting the intestines either. So you're also kind of pulling up, you know, there is a space in there.
And here I am, this is,
Show Jamie's at the bottom, just the little space that's
Right.
for,
can you see that? Oh, there's chairs in the way. I'm trying to get the crawl, I'm getting ready to cut for the crawl. Jamie's, that's her hole that's left from the crawl, but she loosened it up. Now
So-
she's back there working on the vent.
but so she still left all the skin on the breast. Because you really, you know, you want the skin on the breast for moisture and everything, so keep that cut up on the neck like that.
My Michael Jackson impersonation is where I cut myself, so like I said, watch it when you use these knives. And then here's going in to get the offal out. You made the cut, you get it big enough to put your hand in. Derek had helped us, was a mountain of a man, his hands were huge, his hole was huge. So, and he's got his hand in there, so when you go in there, I always go in, the bird's laying down, so I always put my hand in along the rib cage and,
Yeah.
and just move my fingers back and forth to break all those membranes loose. That's in there, it's in there pretty tight. I go back and forth, kind of loosen everything up. I usually grab, you can feel the gizzard's big. I usually grab the gizzard and pull a handful out. And that comes with experience, you know, you pull it out real nice, the liver comes out complete. You know, you gotta reach in there a few times, but I always loosen it up, and then you grab a handful, and I usually grab hold of that gizzard and bring it out.
And this is not really a bloody thing.
Yeah, you
Really,
see-
you know, if it's bled out correctly, it's just guts, not blood.
Yeah, you kind of see here, you know, there's really no blood anywhere on this. So, you know, once the killing cones are done right, you don't really have any blood. Here's Ches. I wish she got a V8. So you kind of see she's bringing the offal out. And what you do is you bring it out, but the intestine's still hooked to the vent. You know, we cut above the vent. So we'll show you how to cut around the vent so it doesn't break and you get manure on your carcass. So she's bringing everything out, and there's the heart, and there's the gizzard. There's Stuart, he finally got it all out, and he's got the gizzard in his hand. There's Sandy. Tell you what, we've had lots of people help us over the years, and a lot of customers want to come and see how we do it. They want to get experience to find out how to do it. We always say, customer inspection is always the best, because they're the one that's going to eat it. And we're always been open. They're welcome to come at any time. Some customers come just once. Some change the chill tanks. I mean, we have, sometimes it's just us. Sometimes I think most we ever have is 14 people. And so you kind of see here with Craig, he's got his hand in there. Sandy's bringing it out. It's much easier if we had a live bird here to show everybody. We usually use like a squeegee or something to just kind of keep this clean as you can, so you're not getting, you do happen to break a gallbladder or whatever's green. Gallbladder. You clean it up. And I tell you what, I always enjoyed Chicken Butcher Day. I think it's become a good time. Everybody thinks we're crazy, but my grandma used to help till she got to be like 91. My aunt, and you're there together all day. You're staying up face to face. You're all doing the same job. It's good community action, really. See everybody. So I must have told a good joke here, because I wasn't doing it. But, I said, it's just, we have fun.
And in that picture, we've got water everywhere, so the more hoses, whatever you can rig up, so everybody can even have their own water source if you have a few people, everybody will be much more happier, and the bird will be cleaner.
And you can tell I'm not a licensed plumber. Hose fittings are pretty easy to work with. But yeah, so you're not passing the hose back and forth, or it slips and hits the ground or something, so PVC and glue.
Do you have a picture of actually removing the vent?
I think we do. All right, I think I don't. Let's see here. All right, so we'll see if we got a vent picture. Well, right here, Stuart is bringing out the offal, and here's the vent. So what we'll do is we'll lay this on the table, and like I said, the intestine is still hooked to it, the manure, and we cut down both sides of this.
Yeah, it's like a U. You can just make this U cut, and it removes the whole thing.
Comes with it. So we cut this side, I usually cut this side, then I grab hold of it and pull it down and just cut it off. And you cut it right below where the intestine meets. And it's just, or you can almost go all the way around it. It's possible to do that. It's really not that hard. And the only other thing here, once you get this all out, right past the vent on both sides is the kidneys. Some people don't worry about the kidneys, but you usually just stick both fingers in there and they pop right out. And supposedly, your juices run more clear if the kidneys are taken out.
And they're in the back.
They're in the back,
Okay,
right,
they're in
right
the
past
back
the vent
at
here.
by the thighs.
Yeah.
And then there's also, which we weren't showing, was really the lungs. So they're in the front part of the bird, but they're also in the back. Okay, if it's laying on its back, they're in the back, but they're up front
They're
under the
above.
breast. And you can scoop them out.
Yeah, they're just like our lungs, there are bones in there. And I don't know, a lot of old timers would process by the sign of the moon, and sometimes they clean easier than other times. But when it's a good day, the lungs pop right out whole. When it's a tough day, they come out in pieces. You got to keep putting your fingers down in there to pull them out. But usually, you look in there, sometimes you think you got everything, but the lungs are still in there because they're kind of embedded in the body. And you reach in up there towards the front and push down, and you'll feel the bones and they'll pop out. They make a lung remover, but I think most people use them, don't bother with them, but they do. It's kind of like a scoop you use for spaghetti or something. It's got little nuns on it. Yes.
I was going to ask you if the scraper was worthwhile for the lungs or not, or
I don't think so.
I know some people that bought them and then they end up not using them. They're trying to do them for a while, and it's kind of another.
One more thing to pick up, and I wouldn't use it.
I think Sandy's cutting around the fin right there. Roger there, when he would show up to volunteer to help, we just bring out a box of Band-Aids.
And then the bird gets a final, rinse with the hose.
Yeah, Sandy's doing that, she's
Kind
done.
of just get any debris that's left before it goes into the
Yeah, we kind of do that when we're, like, we got that out, we'll rinse it out with the hose, dump it, there's, you know, murky water. Go and get what else we need out there. We'll rinse it out again, dump it. That also helps cool the bird down. Because you want these birds to get down to, 45 degrees. I think within 2 hours is the state law. So the more you rinse them, that gets more cold water inside them. So, okay, we got the bird. Now we put it in the first rinse tank. We usually use 2 tanks. This is the tank they go in the first time. Like I said, we freeze a lot of ice, milk jugs, whatever you got handy. We bought actually small little Rubbermaid pans we can stack in the deep freeze to freeze ice in.
That usually gets changed twice during like those 200.
Right. If you were doing 25, you'd probably be fine, or up to.
And they don't stay in that too long, but that is the only like, murky tank.
Yeah, so they're in there and you think, wow, that's bad. Then there's the tank next to them, the second rinse. How much cleaner it is. And, ice water. And I think it's just remarkable from there to there. And I think we didn't show it.
We might show the tuck when
The tuck, yeah.
when we
You see
found
here, we
them.
tuck the legs. Hopefully we got a picture of that. And we try to keep them in there, we want to keep ice in there, cold.
You would like it to get to 45?
45, I think it's the state law. Here's what we freeze ice in, because we're a little different. We sell them, so what we'll do is after they cool down, we'll bag them, and we put them in coolers with chipped ice when the customers come. So we're kind of in that process now, how to bag them. This was Haven to help with us for a while. It said, did the chicken really cross the road, or did the road move under the chicken? Haven was a philosophy major, so sometimes he would ask questions like that. This is our final rack to inspect the birds and let them drain. And we saw this at another farm, and we made one, and it's just like a 1x6 with a 1x3 on top of it with a hole drilled. This is a PVC pipe, about 1 foot long with an end cap on it. And before we did this, we would kind of stand them up and kind of lean them on each other so the water would drain out of them. So this, we can really turn the bird all the way around, see if we got the windpipe out of it. Because sometimes they break and they'll still be in there. We can see if there's any defections or more, we just go with the bird good. If it's got a broken wing, you get those, when you raise birds, or if it's got a broken leg, we'll either mark those. That's one we've always kept for personal use. And
That shows the tuck a little better.
that kind of, there's the tuck.
That's just a slit in the skin below the breasts, only like 1 inch, and then you can actually stick the drumsticks in it, and they just look better in the bag that way, or they take up less room in the freezer if you tuck them, instead of the legs just sticking out like this.
Jermaine, we've got 2 of them. You can kind of see the nice tuck over there. And then what we do is we got a plastic bag, so the bird's sitting on this draining rack, and we've got meat bags, and we just kind of you can slip it right over the bird, and it works real well. You don't have to keep trying to get it in the bag; it just slips right over. And there's kind of finished product, and waiting for customers. Felicia and her daughters helping. We got a tape machine we used to use to tape the ends. Twist tie works just fine. Here's turkeys. They're just bigger. They take more preening, mainly because our scalder, we can only scald 1 turkey at a time, so we can only put 1 in the picker at a time. And they don't bounce around as much, so whoever's there has to reach in there and keep flipping the turkey over. If we could put 2 turkeys in there at once, they would be more action. But our scalder is just not big enough, so it takes more hand work for us to get these. We actually have to use pruners to get the head off. You can't pull the head off on turkeys. It's the oldest daughter. First slide, can I do this? Get it? A little different with turkeys. When we do chickens, we don't keep the heart or the livers or the gizzards unless the customer asks for them. most customers don't want them, they take a lot more time to do, we'll save some for ourselves, but most customers don't want the offal. At Thanksgiving, everybody thinks they want the giblets, and most of them make it gravy or something, so they want the neck, the gizzard, the heart, and so we save those for all turkeys. That's what these pans are for here, to put the gizzard and stuff in. Turkeys, like I said, are bigger, they're the same thing, there's our sister-in-law Polly, she's got her arm up to her elbow in a turkey, and to clean it out, there's the hearts. You gotta clean the gizzards, and if you've never had a gizzard, they're just all muscle, and they're about this big around, and inside it is like a membrane, and inside that membrane is like gravel, grass, undigested feed. That's where they grind it all up because they don't have any teeth to chew. And what you do is you slice down that gizzard until you see that membrane that's white. Then generally you just pull it back and pop that bag out. It's almost like a bag. Actually, if these are not froze but pretty cold, they go better than when they're warm. When they're cold, they just kind of peel apart. So sometimes we'll stick those in the refrigerator for a few hours to really cool them down. So clean. I wish I could get one of the membrane.
No, it's always fun too, because you never know what's in it.
Yeah. I ordered one once. So much money ever made help us. Yeah, it's amazing how big a rocks turkeys will have in their gizzard versus like chickens, what they pick up. All our grounds are kind of river bottom ground, so we have lots of small stone, pick it up and you'll get rocks as bigger than my thumbnail.
Got like 10 minutes.
So here's how we bag our turkeys. Kind of similar to chickens. We had the tray. This one, this fence post, PVC pipe over it. We got an end cap on it. The turkey goes on. We got the same tuck. Turkeys are a little harder to tuck because their legs are strong. And these are our tanks. What we do here is we bag them and put them in these cattle troughs with ice for the customers to come. We pre-weigh these so we know when the customers come at 17-pounders over here and 25-pounders over there. We kind of learn that when you're digging through 80 turkeys looking for that perfect one for that customer, so we kind of do them by size. And when you process, you never know. This was in one hen, and there's the development of the eggs from that hen all the way from, and they went smaller and smaller and smaller, so it's amazing, like a laying hen's, how many eggs are inside her until it comes out to the shell. I guess that was kind of interesting. Like I said, it's enjoyable. And does anybody have any questions? And then it would be a lot easier if we were doing 2 here or 5. But it's not that daunting of a task. Can't really go wrong. I mean, if you're doing it for yourself, you can still fry it when you get done. It's a learning process, or roast it. I guess the only one we don't have a tuck. Let's see here.
How long does it take you to process chickens per person? You said you do 2 or 250 in 4 hours, but how many people's involved?
If it was like Sandy and myself and our daughter and
6 people.
about 6,
Okay.
And it's good to have a rhythm. I was going to say earlier about this because, and actually the person killing is setting the rhythm, and that was usually my brother-in-law, and he would just get all the crap from all of us, because he doesn't want them to get rigor mortis. Then he would overwhelm us at the preening table with too many. So, it's good he needed to watch us more and kind of set a pace so that it's getting done in a timely fashion. Everybody can handle their station. And everybody kind of learned the stations, but then you would stay at that station the whole time we were doing it.
Yeah, we all could do whatever, but so who wasn't there, you could fill in. And my brother Glenn, he kind of would set that, but one reason is if you stop and wait, then you forget about your water temperature, because the water temperature drops when you put birds in it,
Right.
and water comes out. So he liked to keep going until his water temperature stayed the same. So then when we told him to slow down and we started back up and the birds wouldn't pluck, we started get him heck for not scalding right. You know?
So he would
Like that
set, he would take another wash tub and a turkey burner, and he would keep hot water available on the side.
Right.
So then he could regulate that temperature a lot better that way.
He had a hose back here, so if he had to cool it down, he put cold water in. He had hot water there too, so he'd keep it hot. And we were doing, say, 200 or 250. When we got 100 of them done, we would change that scald water. It gets really, really nasty, and it just heats better when it's cleaner. So we would take a break halfway through, change the scald water. He had enough water hot to put it in there, and we would change scald water. If you were just doing 125 or less, you probably wouldn't have to, or depending on what size your pot is, you know. I mean, you're just doing a stock pot. You're doing 20, you might want to change it after 15. It just makes the scalding and everything go easier.
And, you know, we could say the timing of this is, it takes forever to bag 200 chickens.
Yeah.
And, you know, it took us as long to bag and take them out to customers, and then actually we did this all in one day. And so we were bagging for 2 hours. That was checking the birds on the post.
Chopping eyes.
You know, chopping eyes, putting them in the coolers, and then having customers come for 2 to 3 hours as well. So it made a really long day. But
We just advertised, okay, this Saturday we will have a butchery and put it in the paper. How do people know you come on butchery day to get them, or do you freeze them for?
we told them ahead of time what the time